In the heart of Mexico City, there lived a woman. To the casual observer, Fernanda was a tragic figure of circumstance. She had reached that devastating nadir where the human struggle seems to hit a stone wall. Her refrigerator was a barren cavern of white plastic. Her pockets held nothing but the lint of better days, and her heart was heavy with the weight of the world. She was at the end of her rope, or so it seemed to the three-dimensional world. Most people in Fernanda's position would have spent their hours holding the thought of their debts. They would have discussed their poverty with neighbors, meditated on the price of tortillas they couldn't afford, and effectively walked around with a mental sign that read, LACK. Fox warned us that to dwell on a problem is to feed it. To worry about your empty cupboards is to tell the universe, I believe in the power of an empty cupboard more than I believe in the power of God. Fernanda reached a point where she could no longer fight the odor world. This is often the most blessed moment in a soul's journey, when the human will finally admits, I, of myself, can do nothing. The door of the soul begins to creak open. She began to pray, but mark this distinction, Wellseye. She did not pray the prayer of a beggar. The beggar's prayer is a spiritual disaster. When you beg God for money, you are affirming to the law of correspondence that you do not have it, and the law, which is as impersonal and mathematical as the law of gravity, must then manifest more not having in your experience. Instead, Fernanda practiced what Fox called the law of substitution. This is the greatest psychological discovery of the age. You cannot push a negative thought out of your mind. If I tell you, do not think of a green apple, the green apple is the only thing you see. To get rid of the green apple, you must think of a red rose. To get rid of the thought of poverty, you must think of God. Fernanda began to turn her back on the testimony of the senses. Her eyes saw an empty kitchen, but her mind began to assert a higher truth. She sat in the silence of her small room and began to move her attention away from the problem and toward the source. She realized that God is not a man in the sky who decides who gets tortillas and who doesn't. God is infinite substance. God is the very stuff from which all things are made. Therefore, if God is everywhere present, then abundance is everywhere present, even in that quiet, hungry room in Mexico City. She began to say, not with her lips, but from her inner entrails. Every morning as the sun rose over the city, Fernanda had a choice. She could wake up and say, how will I survive today? Or she could say, God is the only power. Fox taught that you can only have in the odor what you have first built as a mental equivalent in the inner. If you want a full refrigerator, you must first have a full mind. You must be able to mentally accept the idea of wealth before the wealth can manifest. Fernanda was doing the hard work, not physical labor, but the much more difficult labor of mental discipline. She was refusing to be bullied by the facts of her life. She was looking right through the appearance of lack and claiming her divine heritage. She was emptying her mental cup of the poison of fear so that the divine mind could pour in the wine of plenty. She stopped the frantic scurrying of the human mind. Most people, when in trouble, run hither and thither, making desperate phone calls and creating a mental storm that blocks the very help they seek. Fernanda did the opposite. She practiced the scientific quiet. She understood that the lake of the mind must be still before it can reflect the sun. In that stillness, she wasn't asking God to change Mexico City. She was asking God to change her. She knew that if she could change her consciousness from poor Fernanda to Fernanda, the daughter of the infinite, the entire universe would have to reorganize itself to match her new state of mind. She did not know how the help would come. She did not know that a man named Gilberto Aranda was, at that very moment, 1,000 miles away, acting as a part of the divine plan. She didn't need to know. The how is God's business. The what was her business, and her what was a firm, unwavering recognition that God is good and God is all. This was the first movement of her soul, the Vaishar sea emptying of fear to make room for the light. She had found the golden key. She had stopped trying to fix the screen and had gone back to the projector room of her own mind. While Fernanda Rosas sat in her silent apartment in Mexico City, a remarkable phenomenon was occurring in the unseen realm. Emmet Fox taught that there is no such thing as a solitary prayer, because there is only one mind. Every shift in your consciousness is felt throughout the entire universe, just as a pebble dropped into a Pacific lagoon sends ripples to every distant shore. Fernanda had stopped fighting her poverty and had begun to saturate her mind with the presence of God. She was practicing the golden key. Most people make the fatal mistake of trying to will things to happen. They try to force the world to give them money, or force people to love them, or force doors to open. But the spirit cannot be forced. It can only be enticed by a change in your own nature. Hundreds of miles away, in the state of Jalisco, lived a man named Gilberto Aranda. To the world, Gilberto was a successful businessman, a man of substance and discipline. But to the student of metaphysics, Gilberto was something else. He was a channel. Emmet Fox was very clear on this point. God does not drop bags of gold from the sky. God works through channels, through people, through laws, through ideas, and through coincidences. Gilberto had reached a stage in his life where he felt a profound spiritual restlessness. He was a man of great wealth, but no heirs, and he was praying, not for more money, but for divine direction. Where? He asked in the quiet of his study, should the fruit of my life's work go? Who is ready to receive it? Now consider the mathematical beauty of this situation. In Mexico City, we have a woman who has finally emptied her mental cup of fear and is claiming her divine heritage. In Jalisco, we have a man who has a full cup and is looking for a place to pour it. The world calls it luck. That Gilberto Aranda's mind was suddenly impressed with a name and a destination. But Fox would tell you that luck is the name given to a law that is not yet understood. This was the law of correspondence in its most majestic form, as within, so without. Because Fernanda had created a mental equivalent of supply, the universe had to find a physical equivalent to match it. It is a law of the universe that a vacuum must be filled. By clearing out the garbage of her worries, Fernanda had created a spiritual vacuum, and Gilberto Aranda was the instrument chosen by the divine mind to fill it. Gilberto Aranda sat with his attorneys, men of logic and law, and gave instructions that defied human reasoning. He named Fernanda Rosas, a woman he had never met, a woman from a different city, a woman whose struggle he did not know with his human intellect, but whom his soul recognized. His lawyers perhaps thought him eccentric. But Gilberto was simply being obedient to the intuition that comes when a man quiets his mind. Emmet Fox wrote extensively about the Sermon on the Mount, explaining that when two souls are aligned with the truth, the entire geography of the world is rearranged to bring them together. There was an invisible bridge made of thought and faith stretching from the humble floor of an Iztapalapa apartment to the mahogany desks of a Guadalajara law firm. Fernanda did not know about the lawyers. She did not know about the will. And this is the most important lesson for you. The seeker, you do not need to know how God is going to do it. Fox warned that the moment you start wondering, how? The money will come, or how? The healing will happen. You are back in the realm of the human ego. You are trying to play God. Your only job is to stay in the state of affirmation. Fernanda continued her mental diet. Every time the thought of her empty stomach arose, she golden keyed it. She turned her mind back to the infinite. She affirmed, my Father is the owner of the cattle on 1,000 hills. I cannot lack any good thing. She was maintaining her high watch. She was refusing to look at the wind and the waves, like Peter on the water, and instead she kept her eyes fixed on the Christ, consciousness. During these weeks, Fernanda felt a strange impulse to do something seemingly unrelated to her finances. She felt she must forgive. She began to write letters of release to those she had resented. The world remained the same for a few more days. The sun rose, the traffic hummed, and the lawyers filed their papers. But the spiritual precipitation was almost complete. The thought had become a thing. The prayer had become a fact. The inner film had been edited, and now the projector of the divine mind was ready to flash the new reality onto the screen of Fernanda's life.